folks. Welcome to Project Gamma. At Project Gamma, we have smart conversations with smart people across entrepreneurship, technology, and cybersecurity. My name is Warner Moore. I'm a technologist and a security leader who helped build multiple business-to-business software as a service companies who's passionate about modern cybersecurity practices. I'm also the founder of Gamma Force. At Gamma Force, we help tech and health tech companies with cybersecurity strategy by acting as our client's fractional security organization. Today, we have Kevin Mack, and Kevin started his career focused on user experience and design. After approximately 10 years, he pivoted and leaned in hard into the startup space. Kevin's been a co-founder of the startup BYBE, who put alcohol vouchers in the hands of customers. Following a successful exit at BYBE, he joined the team at RVMP as CTO. Kevin's also a prolific community leader and the founder of Columbus Web Group. So, Kevin, you were originally in school to be a lawyer, but you had to fund your band. So you started doing work in tech, and it turned into a career, and a strong one at that. You're a CTO. What was unique about your career journey?
Oh, probably the most unique, and I should say thank you for having me first. But Warner, it's always a pleasure to see you and talk to you. It's a true honor. But I think what was unique about me was I grew up in a house of art. So my mom was an art director for the Washington Post. My dad was actually a lawyer, so initially I was going to go down that path. And when I was studying in school, I was very passionate about education, but my hobby of computers, learning as much as I could, kind of took over. And then I was given this first opportunity, and it was actually at MI Homes, a nationwide home builder. And it was at that perfect time period of where IT used to own the dot com, but then marketing was taking it over. It was like those early days of what they refer to as Web 2.0, and websites became more design heavy, and they had a reason for them to exist and a focus on ROI. And I was given that opportunity at a very young age to come in and to make our website be a lead generator, a sales tool. But I was actually hired on initially in the IT department. The first day I started, I got moved into the marketing department, and I was the technologist in the marketing department. As things progressed, it was like I did this merger of design and development in the early days. Beginning, it was heavy on the IT, but aligning with design and marketing. And then when I left I went to a consulting firm in the early days of native development, and it was purely IT based. And it was also my introduction to Staff Aug, a true consultant. But I love making things, so that didn't last very long. Within about a month or three, I ended up interviewing at Resource Interactive. And at that time period, Resource was, I think, number seven in the country from creative agency. And I interviewed as a designer. In my interview as a designer, I got called back and they were like, we want to bring you on as a developer, a senior developer. And within my first, so I took that job, and within my first few weeks, I was put into this role of the mobile practice that was coming out. And these are the early days of the App Store. And at Resource, being a heavy creative design agency, I was one of the few technologists that was interacting with the creative team. There was this huge wall and divide between creatives and technologists. But because I could speak both languages and be that glue in between, I then started getting into innovation, which was combining the combination of creative thought and technology and really focusing on product output. From there, I left Resource Interactive to join Cardinal Solutions to start their UX practice with some other folks. And our initiative was to spread the word about user experience and creating user experience practices where it was always about why we're building this and who is it for, and building something with a purpose. And again, all those same marketing reasons, but like traditional marketing reasons, but utilizing technology. Then, as you mentioned, kind of evolved outside of leadership. And during those time periods, previously, I'd been doing a lot of business and sales because knowing both sides and always thinking kind of, for lack of a better word or phrase, outside the box. Startup community really I gravitated towards it. And I found myself in the startup world even before I knew about the startup world. I saw these people that were what I refer to as small businesses, like the same people that gave me a shot when I was a young kid at the age of like 11 or 10 making websites. It kind of felt that same way, but instead of it being a parent of someone I went to school with or a local shop in the short north in Columbus, I found myself making websites for or helping out build technology for individuals that had great ideas and concepts, and then mentoring them. And then getting involved in the investment world, I was doing due diligence in startups for investors to then put money in. So I started building this, you know, experience and knowledge from design, technology to building products, doing innovation, and then seeing on the ground level what entrepreneurs and how entrepreneurs thought and the startup community that was building, not just here in Columbus, Ohio, but across the country. And that was exciting to me. So when I left Cardinal Solutions, quick story there, I was a mentor and advisor at an accelerator here in Columbus, Ohio. And I met who ended up being my two co-founders of Vibe at this accelerator. And I gave them a long list of things to do, thinking that they would never do it. And about a week or two later, they gave me a call and I met up with them and they completed everything. Now, I made a bet with them that said if they did all this, I would join on as your third co-founder on this product. So, uh, about a week later, I ended up putting in my notice at Cardinal Solutions and went full time at Vibe. And
Wow.
meanwhile, I started up another company called Discrete AF, which was to help independent people, creatives and technologists, a consortium where we supported each other and did innovative creative work for a wide range of industries and companies.
So cool, cool. I like where you ended that. We'll come back to some of your latest experience later in the conversation. A few things really stood out to me from that conversation. I I'm a polymath as well, and I different
Mhm.
background, different things, but I love how your background really went deeper into some higher impact areas, and what those things combined really translate well to impact, right? Impact in a business, impact as an entrepreneur. And if there's anything that's true as leaders, as executives in the executive team in a company, and it is a team in a well-functioning company, we together in that team are setting strategy, we're iterating and talking to the market, we're closing deals, right? And we're managing and leading the organization. But as a CTO, we're looking outwards and putting the technology hat on first and helping lead technology. But really, it's as a member of the team, because if we're on the executive team, even if we're CTO and we don't get business, if we can't make an impact on business relative to our role, we're not effective in that level, in that role. So, really a theme behind that narrative is that and not only do you have that non-traditional and diverse experience, it really translates well to what you're doing now.
Thanks. Thanks for observing all that from that. So appreciate it.
One thing I often say is that transitioning from technologist to manager is a career switch and not a promotion, but we don't always experience it that way. Suddenly we're promoted and have to figure out a brand new job. What are some of your lessons in your transition to management and leadership?
Yeah, and to also like hit on this, working in corporate environments and even agency world and consulting world, there's that constant pull of some of the best employees that you have, the best workers that are out there, where they continue to accelerate at what they do and they get it done quicker and quicker. And then the day comes where they ask, I want a pay raise. And it's like, well, they're kind of maxed out at their role of being an engineer or a developer. And so the only option then you're left with is, well, let's open up the doors for managing people and spreading your knowledge and experience. But my personal experience of seeing other people at this and actually being someone that promoted people from a senior role as a developer or even a designer, when they go into management roles, they fail because they don't have that natural ability to teach people. And that's not what they wanted to do as a career. They made that move because they wanted to make more money. And for myself, I moving on past or experiencing that in other organizations and other experiences in my life, I never want to encourage anyone to get into a management position unless they're asking to be in a management position. For myself, I started web development in 95, and I mentioned I grew up in a house of art. So I inherently learned a lot over many, many years. And uh, I've been involved with various community things and also specs and features that are in browsers that people use every single day. With that, I have a wide range of knowledge and experience, and I love sharing and educating and teaching people. And I truly am passionate about not just the ability to create jobs and to create careers, but to also share what I've learned over the years, the mistakes that I've had, and to engage people and to make them work the best that they can. I've made a lot of mistakes getting into management or leadership roles, especially owning companies. There's the classic phrase of you don't know what you don't know. Uh, and, you learn and you have to learn really, really fast. But the biggest thing that I learned at a very young age from mentors that I had, Bill McDonough at MI Homes, who was the CMO, um, taught me this one valuable lesson, and I'm going to probably butcher this, but paraphrasing this, and we actually have a poster of this here at RVMP, but it's never me, it's always we. It's never I, it's always us. And in a meeting, when you are saying, I did this, even if you're the only person that did it, it is a team's victory. It is the company's victory. It is this mindset that we're in this together. It is separating yourself from the actual work. And I live that every single day, even sometimes when I'm like, oh, we're going to the store, and I'll have a friend or my mom be like, who's the we in this? It's like, no, I'm just got so used to not talking about myself and being in a group effort. But then outside that, having it be about the team and everyone involved and thinking about the greater good, and it's never about yourself. You also have to be accountable uh, for decisions, and you have to take those risks that no one really wants to. And then if you miss the mark, you have to be accountable for it. Or if someone on your team messes up, you have to be accountable for that. And when there's a victory or something to celebrate, you don't celebrate that. You share that with you're part of that, but you celebrate the team and the company's efforts. So it is kind of like a sometimes a lonely spot to be in a leadership or management role, but effective leaders and managers are people that aren't just doing it for themselves or even that pay raise that I talked about. They're doing it because they are, you know, leading the team in the right direction and then being accountable for things. And then the best of the best are hiring someone that is better than them at things that they could never do. And for myself, I am beyond blessed to have an amazing team. And a lot of these individuals that are on the team today are people I've been working with for over a decade. And I brought them from other companies that I had or other organizations I worked at. And they make me smarter, they make me better. We share the success together. And it's all about that, balance in between supporting them and us all working together for an outcome. But I've definitely gone a long way from where I was to where I am now. And there's certain things in my life that I wish I would have done something differently, but I have learned from those mistakes, and I will, shamefully look back at some decisions or ways that I acted a decade ago or 5 years ago and be like, what was I thinking back then? So continuously learning and then also getting the feedback from team members and never being afraid of it. And in an organization that is constantly growing, especially in the startup world, you have to be open for discussion that way and also adjust to meet the mood or the team.
Lots of great thoughts there, Kevin. I appreciate you sharing some of your leadership philosophy. One thing I'll highlight, and I think is a bit of an anti-pattern we have in tech, and I've seen it happen so many times. It's where we will promote or force our best engineers or technologists into management roles. And well, we've already talked about it's a career switch, it's not a promotion. And some of the reasons why technologists might have traditionally sought that out is because of reaching a plateau from a compensation perspective on the career ladder. And believe it or not, I think it was IBM. Microsoft is often credited for it, but I think it was IBM first who introduced dual track career ladders, like engineering track that's parallel to management. And I think for us as leaders, as CTOs, as technology executives in our organizations, it's very important to be thoughtful about not only who we're promoting into management and how we train and empower them, but are we creating the environment where our best technologists can continue to be and grow as our best technologists? Because if we're not curating that talent over time, and if we're promoting our best talent into a job they really don't want and won't be good at, we're failing on multiple levels. So I loved the note you had
Um,
about BYBE earlier, where you gave folks a list and they not only took that list, they completed the list, and well, you ended up joining the team. I love that. I help folks out all day long, and that's often something I'm highly sensitive to. If somebody asks for help or time and then they don't act on it, well, it's a way to not get my time prioritized for you. So I think there's a bit of a nugget there that a lot of us can apply in how we're working with folks. But uh, after BIBE, you went on to RVMP. So tell me a bit more about what you're working on at RVMP.
yeah, and RVMP was a true career switch for me. I'd worked on some physical products here and there. I did some work with HTC in the early 2000s on hardware, and then obviously through support of the innovation lab at Resource. But outside that, some cosmetic products or wellness products I released, but never a physical hardware, something like an engine. So this concept came from Jimmy Conroy, and he, as well as Brian Carmichael, who's president of RVMP, we had another venture together that didn't work out. But we created friendship and realized that we liked working together. And Jimmy developed this concept or developed a product, early stage, 4,000-watt generator. He identified in the marketplace that there was only one person that was doing power and energy in the RV or recreational vehicle space. And that was Cummins Onan that owned and dominated 90% plus. And so he actually designed the product, put it together, found some engineers to make it. And his idea was, even I get a slice of that pie, I don't need the whole pie. I could be making good money and we can be putting out a better product. But from those early days of RVMP and the first time we all met together and outlined the company, we decided on our mission statement. And it's a great mission. Two pieces I would call out is the heart of the underdog and the golden rule. And the heart of the underdog is this scrappy feeling that 0 to 1, get something done, get it done quick, always moving fast, always being energized, always excited about waking up the next day and a focus on innovation. And if you find success, don't become a sleeping giant. And then the golden rule being treat people the way that you want to be treated as well. And that includes our vendors, our partners, obviously our customers. But where it's unique is we think about it in our product side. So from the product side, every single product we have goes through a rigorous PDI process, our pre-delivery inspection. So QC or quality control is kind of the heart and soul of our company. We imagine that every single product that is leaving our facilities, we imagine as if it's going to ourselves or a loved one. So that type of care that you would have if you're giving it to your mother, your brother, sister, goes into every single thing that we do. So we outlined that on day one. And we also outlined this vision of entering into a marketplace, the RV industry for power and energy. And we said, all right, Odin's out there. Here's this 4,000 watt generator that Jimmy started. Well, how can we make it better? And this is our formula. We look at an industry and who's leading in there. We identify their specs and features. We look at the other competitors in that space, their specs and features. We make that be our baseline for our products, and then we approve upon them. And then we do something innovative. And that's our formula. Meet the specs, accelerate past those specs, and then do something innovative. So we took this 4,000 watt generator and made it one of the highestly rated generators, meeting all the specs, made it 200 pounds lighter, smaller in size. And then from the innovations side, we made it be dual fuel, both gasoline and propane. And we also put a computer board in there so we could do firmware updates as we were planning for the future and other technology that we would have later in life. And we're actually developing now, uh, you know, 5 or 6 years later from the initial concept that we had in that room. And we went from being a nobody company, an unknown brand, to being recognized very quickly and then dominating the market within a 3 year time period in the RV space. Now, almost every single RV that's being manufactured has one, if not three, of our products in there. And we have that pure, we are the giant in that. But back to what I said, we'll never become the sleeping giant. So we continue to innovate and grow these products out there so that 4,000 watt generator turned into the FlexPower 4000i generator, which then evolved to the FlexPower 4000e generator, which is a non-carb EFI model, 50 state compliant. And so we were the first 50 state compliant generator. But then that evolved into us shrinking it down in even half the size. So comparing it to those initial specs, we were 300 pounds lighter and we're more than half the size less than what was initially in the marketplace and has less vibration, more fuel efficient, better for the environment. So basically, I'm now working on developing hardware and utilizing my experience in design as well as technology to make physical products such as engines, generators, and a wide range of other products. I'm currently working on, so we've diversified from the RV industry over the past really 2 years, and we have a wide range of different divisions. We like to consider ourselves an industrial industrial product company uh, that's focused on innovation. And we are putting technology and thinking about things and how they can be improved on a daily basis. And I already mentioned the formula, but that's kind of like our Bible when developing a product. And we created this division. This is what I'm incredibly passionate about. I love all of our products here, but our division of Flex Security it is purely focused on making communities safer. Our Each division has their own mission statement, but the highlight from there is to stop crime before it happens. The majority of us have kids here at RVMP, and they go to elementary school. When we gave birth to the concept of flex security, it was about a day or two after a school shooting that made national news. And those make me feel sick to hear about. And it's like we can continue to complain that there needs to be more, legislation on gun restrictions, mental health, and all that. But we all sit back and complain. We saw this as an opportunity for us to create a product line or division that actually made communities safer. Since then, we've developed now one of the highest quality mobile security trailers in the market. And in the next few months, similar as we did in the power and energy space, I'm confident and I know we'll be number one inside there. And it's not about the profits, it's really about making the community safer. So it is a true joy of mine and the evolution that I had from writing code and text editors in the 90s to then getting to design things in CAD and products and making something out of steel and aluminum, but not just providing power and energy, but providing safety for our communities and making a small little impact. And there's horror stories that, continue to happen on a daily basis. But two out of the last three Fridays, our products were deployed at an area where there was a call-in or a threat for an active shooter. I'm thankful that nothing happened out of that. Our units were there. I can't say that the deterrence of our units being there prevented that from happening, but I'm just glad that we were there, uh, even if it slightly changed someone's mind from being there. And in the case that an incident does occur, we're going to work with local law enforcement to reduce the time it takes for first responders to come out there and aid in the community and get there and make sure it's not just safe for the community, but also, local law enforcement. So it's just like a really wild thing for me to think about. Like, this wasn't what I thought I'd do. I thought I'd be a lawyer. um, but the things that I was doing, in my bedroom as a 10-year-old writing code would ever evolve to make an impact on communities and municipalities that is actually making things safer and to build products that weigh 2,000 pounds that are out of steel and have all this technology in it. It is, I've come to this point in my life of everything that I learned from a leadership, from a technology, from a design, from my own hobbies, my own passions and love for community, and wanting the world to be a better place, that we can create products that actually do this. So there's nothing more fulfilling than kind of meeting that goal.
Mhm. And one thing that really resonated with me is of all you just shared, you started with values and mission, and you kept on coming back to that. And if there's anything we do in the world, impact, I think is a big part of it, and that's just as true in the companies we own and build as well.
Yeah, I think all startups, when I mentor startups today, I always say one of the first things you need to do isn't make a tagline. It's to write down your mission. That mission doesn't have to be written in stone, but you need something that gives you that drive to wake up in the morning and the reason to build something. Um, and certain days are very challenging, especially in the startup world. And you may be feeling fatigued from the day before, a bit exhausted, overwhelmed, but that mission is going to be that boost, that fire underneath you that keeps you going. And it's sad to say, hearing about another tragedy, um, it becomes fuel for us to grow this product line and utilizing the skills that I've developed over the years and the experiences I've lived to improve communities. It's not just building something to build something; it's building something to have impact and to make communities better. So we can spend all day long making money writing the next SaaS product, or you can build something that maybe makes schools safer and kids not afraid to go to school, or making people not have to overlook. It's just really fascinating, and I'm proud of this team here and the growth that we've had to be able to get to where we are today.
Hmm. Yeah, our mission at Gamma Force to change cybersecurity to be strategic and drive meaningful value is not one I came to lightly. Our mission and values I worked on over many weeks and months, and of course, got input from the team as well. It's not just words on the rhetorical wall or website, it's real stuff. It's what we live by.
Exactly.
One thing I often take exception to is the hustle culture in startup life. I like to think of building a company as a marathon and not a sprint. At BYBE, you ran the sprint. Now at RVMP, you're running a marathon. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, like many other startups, when the concept of Vibe started, it was like, all right, we're going to build this and we're going to build it fast and we're going to have growth and traction and rapid revenue with this plan of an acquisition, someone to buy us for that quick payday. The same way that, in the early 2000s, people would buy a house to, change some wall paint, change maybe the flooring and flip it for a cash sale within a few days. And there's a lot of people in the startup world that still think that way of building something for that quick win. And that's essential for even big corporations to absorb these, to have the entrepreneur thought and these products be evolved inside of a big infrastructure or corporation. But when we started RVMP, it was not that idea. What sold me on joining RVMP was something that Jimmy told me over coffee, and Jimmy is the CEO. It was, let's create a multi-generational company. It wasn't anything about like what we're doing now or the mission that we had. It was that concept of let's create something sustainable. Anyone can make money, anyone can have a profitable company, anyone can sell a company, but very few people can create something that's sustainable and strong for many, many generations to come in. And it's almost this idea of creating a legacy. And I don't necessarily mean myself or any of the founders of our VMP. I mean for us and the impact that we have. Like 20 years from the road, from 20 years from now down the road, seeing the photos of this team here, this snapshot, and being like, oh, that's Matt Witzler, the guy that was director of innovation initially, or that's Kev that did all this amazing stuff. That's the vision that we have for this. And you make very different decisions when you're planning for a company to exist for many, many years, because it's the difference of maybe putting a band-aid or a quick bandage over something when you actually need surgery. And surgeries take longer for a recovery time. But if you're moving fast and you don't care about the long term, let's just put a little band-aid over it and we're going to be fine. This boat will still continue to move out there even though we patched it up. And for us, we've been making decisions and investments in people, especially for the long term, and ideas that we have. We're still thinking about it today, but we're thinking of the evolution of where we get. I gave the example of the first 4,000-watt generator. We built technology in there with the idea and the hope or the goal of being where we are today to then make all of those generators smart. We didn't have the capital then. And our VMP is self-funded. We have no outside investments. It's organically grown, which is also very, very different. But because of this like plan for the future, instead of being like, we need to build out all this technology then, when it was just four guys in a small warehouse, we created the concepts, the connectors, knowing that later on, when we grow, when we have the right people and the right or the capital to do it, we will do it. Where a lot of companies, if they were just trying to sell that off, we would put it all together, jam it in, package it up, try to gain revenue and profits to sell it as a package. That's not what we're doing here. Everything is strategic and planned out on a roadmap. We have short-term goals and long-term goals. But with that, our model is kind of also backwards from what typically I've been involved with in startup world or even in corporations. It was always like profit and revenue was the driver. Well, how do we have products that then drive up revenue in the shortest amount of time? It was always about time too, the shortest amount of time. And then we need the fewest amount of people to build those products to then make the revenue and to be profitable so we can sell it. And also the smaller the amount, the bigger the pie is when we sell it, the higher amount we all get from an equity standpoint. For us, we take the exact opposite approach. We say, let's hire and find the best people. There's no rush to find it because it's easy to hire someone. It's very hard to get rid of someone. And we don't like to get rid of someone. We like to find a new seat for them or a new role or position. But finding the right people, the best people. If you have the best people, you're going to have the best products. If you have the best products, you are going to be profitable. And that is our model outside of that spec piece that I said, spec to improve upon to innovation. It's people, products, and then profits kind of last. And we've been doing that. And it is allowed us to organically grow from 4 people to now reaching over 100 people, and we'll continue to grow. And we don't like to. We're kind of like a silent business here in Columbus, but we're well known in our Elkhart facility in that area because we've created jobs and opportunities that were alternative from the RV industry. Um, but we've been a little bit silent here, but we are one of the fastest growing companies in Ohio as well as in Indiana.
Yeah, I like your thoughts there. People, profit, purpose. There's a reason why among our values at Force, we put people first. And I believe that means all stakeholders, right? That means team members, employees, that means customers, and that means shareholders. And I'm a bit of a nerd about business too, and I just read the book, The Essays of Warren Buffett, where all his shareholder letters are transcribed and synthesized to make some points. It's his words too, and so really well architected book. And I've always held values pretty true, especially as I learned how business and investment truly worked. Not speculating, focused on value, value exchange, actual value. And so in culture, in US culture, we know a lot of, or maybe business culture, we know a lot of anecdotes about Warren Buffett. And just going into that book and how the idea of value was broken down in such detail, and not only in spreadsheets, but in how we work with each other as people in business, really resonated with me because in a lot of business, we pretend that we're creating value, but we're really not. What we're doing is we're exchanging value, usually at the cost of someone else. And that could be the cost of the shareholders, or that could be the cost of the employees. And an example of that, which brought it to mind, is pumping value in a company so we can take it public and get a bump in stock value that isn't tied to intrinsic value and liquidate a good portion of the original shareholders. So it's not about creating intrinsic value, it's about pumping up valuation so we can have a transaction so value can be extracted. Now, maybe it normalizes over time, right? I'm painting one view of things, but I think if we ground in how are we creating value for all stakeholders, we don't have to worry about those things. And so coming back to people, purpose, profit, I love your thoughts there.
Thanks. It's a collective idea.
We're nearly out of time today, but I don't want to get through our discussion and not touch some of your work in the community. Over the years, you and I have collaborated a lot in the nonprofit tech community. As long as I've known you, you've worked to make an impact, helping others, leading the Columbus Web Group. What drives your passion behind the community?
Um, I mean, I put myself back to where I got started in early days of the web, and I'm sure you can remember these days too, Warner. But there weren't a lot of resources, and there weren't people there to help teach you on these things. And I've seen, I've always been someone that likes to invest in, someone's first job and getting them off the ground. And those people that try to get a job and it's like that catch 22, they want to get their first job, but they can't get their first job because they don't have experience. And they're like, I want this job for experience. Well, we're not going to give you the job because you don't have experience. And I've loved to hire those type of people over the years, but through the community, you have the opportunity to meet folks like that at a mass volume, and you get to share your experiences, all these things that I've learned, as I said earlier, the mistakes I made, sharing these experiences so they don't go through it, but then also fast tracking them to learn something. And the more and more I've had the opportunity to mentor people, I've learned to talk about the same thing in various ways. And that's also been very beneficial to myself for sales and business development. Some of the things I talk about and work on are very complex, and even the smartest of smart technologists may get lost on it. But by mentoring and teaching someone something, I am able to put it at a level where someone that's a non-technologist can understand. And that's what I kind of get from the mentoring side of it. But my real passion is the opportunity to provide the access and my network and others people's network and bring them all together. Because some of the best minds haven't been discovered yet because no one gave them an opportunity. Community allows for that. And then it's people like yourself, myself, taking that time to have that conversation and connecting them. All they needed was that connection point. But then it's also like these years of experience and knowledge, I don't want this just to live up here. I want to share that with people and have other people learn. I mean, I'm not someone that's necessarily against higher education, but I always say you learn more in the first 6 months of your job than you'll ever learn in the 4 years of college. And I am biased because I studied poli sci pre-law, but and it's not really, I mean, it's applicable, but not applicable to my day to day. But mentors and community give you that same opportunity if you don't have that job to learn really, really fast and to go down the right path. There's a million ways to get the same outcome, but having someone drive you or to kind of hold your hand, mentor you down the path, it's going to happen a lot faster and reduce that amount of time and remove the frustrations that obviously come up in technology that as you're trying to learn. I love just meeting people and being involved with it. Gives me nothing gives me more joy than being a part of a community, especially here in Columbus, Ohio, from where we started with meetup groups that early days it was like four people eating a piece of pizza. Sometimes someone would do a presentation to having 100+ people show up for a presentation and having those aha moments where the next day their life was impacted. And there's nothing cooler than that. And recently I just discovered this. One of my newest hires on my team said, well, I met you like 7 years ago at Columbus Web Group. And I was like, I think I would remember that because I have a decent memory of meeting people. I was like, man, I'm so sorry. I really don't remember that. He's like, well, I remember it. And then it was just a day or two ago, he showed me a photo from that event that he was at. And I saw that photo and I was like, I remember you, Lucas. Yes. It all clicked in my head. And that's so cool in my mind that we went almost like a decade of not even seeing each other, and somehow the universe brought us back together. He's on this team, but he remembers the things from those events years ago, and they impacted his life. And it's just amazing to have that type of impact in the community, and all the people that donate their time, volunteer to share and help out. It's just so cool. And the Columbus community has had such great success because of this community and these leaders that devote time, money, and effort to make this city better. And that's why I think like we are a breeding ground of some of the best technologists and thinkers.
Look for the helpers.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being here today, Kevin. I've enjoyed our discussion. Do you have any closing thoughts, books, or anything you'd like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, I'll leave with there's a handful of books. I'm not one of those people that will tell you to read a book, because when people do that to me, then I'm going to have to read the book. I do like reading a lot, but I like selecting my own. Majority of them are entrepreneur books or philosophy books. One book that I wish I would have read over a decade ago was BE 2.0 by Jim Collins. You don't have to even read the whole book. The first three chapters will change your life. And it's not just your professional life, but it will have an impact in your life that will change your day to day with your significant other, your family. It is just some life lessons that it made a major impact in me. And I read this about 2, 3 years ago, and I think about it on a daily basis. And I would highly encourage someone to read BE 2.0, Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0 by Jim Collins. Fantastic. And end of day, it's like I said this earlier, it's like making something, and don't just make something to make it, but do it to have impact. And if you do that, you'll find the passion in the work that you're doing, and you'll have that drive to wake up every single day, maybe 15 minutes earlier than what you planned on, because you're excited about it. Work shouldn't feel like work. It should feel like you have the opportunity to make and create an impact. And that's how I live every single day. It's why I love my life.
Well, thank you for listening to Project Gamma, presented by GammaForce.io. If you've enjoyed this podcast, check us out on your favorite podcast platform to catch future episodes.